in Tallahassee. It's 9:30 Eastern, so we're going to go ahead and get started with our briefing on Subtropical Storm Alberto. Please stand by. I'm going to go ahead and mute the equips, and we will unmute when we open.
The leader has muted your line. To unmute your line, press #6.
National Hurricane Center this morning have some updated information that we'll share with you in the briefing. Our next briefing, again, will be at 2:30 this afternoon. So with that, latest information that we have for you this morning is that Alberto remains in the Northwest Caribbean Sea and is fairly disorganized. We have seen in the last couple of hours some thunderstorms beginning to develop back around the center, but it's still fairly disorganized, 40-mile-an-hour subtropical storm. Currently, there are no changes to the configurations of watches across the region, but we expect this to change coming up here at 11 o'clock with a little eastward expansion of the watch area into Apalachee Bay. We'll have some more specifics for you once we get closer to 11 o'clock. There's potential for sustained tropical storm force winds along the Florida Panhandle coast. That threat has increased from what we were looking at yesterday. However, the primary concern continues to be the threat for heavy rainfall, which will increase the flash flood threat as we go throughout the weekend. And the tornado potential will increase across the region starting Sunday. So here's a look at the latest forecast that we have from 5 a.m. this morning. Alberto is moving toward the southern Gulf of Mexico. Maximum sustained winds are near 40 miles an hour, and all models are showing that Alberto will strengthen at least to a strong tropical storm by Sunday afternoon. Where we have some uncertainty in the forecast is out here once we get beyond Sunday and into Monday, whether we see more of a northwestward turn or Alberto stays more on a northward trajectory. I want to encourage folks to, again, remember that the cone is not a cone of impacts. It's where the center is going to be about 2/3 of the time. We expect impacts from the system to extend well beyond the center of Alberto. So if you're looking at the eastern side of this cone, it's not an impact area. We're going to see impacts well to the east of the center of this system. Now, right now, our current configuration of the tropical storm watches include coastal areas of Walton, Bay, and Gulf County, and in the adjacent marine area offshore, including these offshore Franklin County. From talking with the Hurricane Center, we anticipate that we'll see an extension eastward of the tropical storm watch around portions of Apalachee Bay. We're still refining exactly where that break point is going to be, but we do expect to have that for you at 11 o'clock. Looking at the current satellite image, the center of tropical storm Alberto, subtropical storm Alberto, had moved from the east coast of the Yucatan. It's now located right here underneath this cloud cover. You can kind of see right there's the western tip of Cuba. All this shower and thunderstorm activity is going to continue spreading to the north. It's going to be reaching us by Sunday morning. So tomorrow is going to be a really rainy, breezy day out ahead of this system. And so that's when we're first looking at the potential during the day on Sunday to see tropical storm force winds across the region. The earliest reasonable time frame of getting tropical storm force winds, even in gusts, is going to probably be Sunday afternoon, but more likely after sunset on Monday. We've seen the wind speed probabilities increase to where we're now at about a 4 in 10 chance of seeing sustained tropical storm force winds at any point along the Florida Panhandle coast. That's particularly for the area from South Walton all the way around through Panama City, down to folks there in Cape San Blas. So again, tropical storm force winds could arrive as early as Sunday afternoon. We'll have to see how these probabilities change when we get the new forecast here in the next hour, but the fact that we're seeing these probabilities come up a little bit does imply a more substantial wind threat, a higher wind threat than what we saw yesterday to areas in the Florida Panhandle. So with that in mind, the areas that you see here in yellow have the potential, especially in gusts, to see tropical storm force winds, in that lower range, 40 to 50 mile an hour. The areas that we have highlighted in orange, the marine area and in portions of South Walton and maybe the beaches of Bay County, have the potential to see tropical storm force winds up to 58 miles an hour as Alberto gets a little bit closer. As we look at our storm surge watch, it's still in effect for the entire area. We don't expect any changes with this as we go to the 11 o'clock advisory. This is for the possibility of life-threatening inundation along the coast. generally looking at storm surge values of 2 to 4 feet above ground. This is unchanged from yesterday. However, we now expect that the greatest surge potential is going to exist during the high tide Sunday afternoon and Monday afternoon, given the speed of the system. And then we're looking at some elevated water levels, generally 1 to 1.5 feet above normal or above ground through the high tide cycle on Tuesday. As far as rainfall, we still feel this is going to be our primary impact, where we're looking at still about 4 to 6 inches anywhere from, say, Tallahassee over to Panama City. We could see isolated heavier totals than this, so it would not be out of the realm of possibilities to start pushing 8 inches or so along the Panhandle coast if the track continues to shift eastward. We do anticipate that the heaviest rainfall is going to be on Sunday and Monday. Based on this forecast and what we're expecting to see at 11 o'clock, we anticipate that we'll be issuing a flash flood watch for a portion of the area, most likely from Jefferson County westward, and we're going to put that out on our afternoon forecast package. So we'll have that for you when we do the webinar at 2:30 this afternoon. And so right now, our greatest concern for the flood threat is in the counties that are shaded orange, right here from, say, Gulf County all the way over into Walton and perhaps portions of southeast Alabama. You know, if the track does shift a little bit, we'll bring that up. But when we're talking about 6 to 8 inches of rain, flash flooding is going to be our primary concern, but also that rainfall is going to result in rivers rising at least into the minor flood category. Now, it is helpful in this particular case when we talk about river flooding. If the bulk of the heavy rainfall occurs here in Florida, it tends to affect the lower portions of the basin, and river flooding takes more rain than that to occur. So as long as we don't see heavy rainfall up into southwest Georgia and southeast Alabama, we think our river flood impacts will be relatively minor as we go through the next several days. The tornado threat looks like it's going to be across the entire area starting on Sunday and will continue through the day on Monday. It's a little bit early at this point for us to define any areas of greater risk other than to just say that there is a tornado threat for Sunday and Monday across the area. So in terms of summarizing this briefing, Alberto remains in the Northwest Caribbean Sea, but is starting to move off to the north-northeast around 9 miles an hour. It is fairly disorganized, but we do anticipate strengthening over the next 48 hours. As of now, there's no changes to the configuration of watches across the region, but this will change coming up at 11 o'clock, so be sure to check the latest forecast from the National Hurricane Center when that is issued. The potential for sustained tropical storm force winds has increased, particularly for folks along the Florida Panhandle coast. Our primary concern continues to be the threat for heavy rainfall, which will increase the flash flood threat. Tornado potential will increase across the entire region starting Sunday and will continue into Monday. The next briefing that we have for 2:30 p.m. this afternoon, we've already sent out the slides for this particular webinar. And again, I encourage you to check the next National Hurricane Center forecast that comes out at 11 a.m. With that, I've got the lines unmuted, so I want to open it up for questions for any folks that are on the call.
Kelly, this is Chris over in Walton.
Okay, go ahead, Walton County.
Is there any thought process of how much higher the storm surge threat might be if the storm shifts a little further to the east?
Yeah, at this point, even if we see a little bit further eastward track, we still think that you all are going to fall in that 2 to 4 foot range right along the coast. For us to be going higher than that, we would need to be talking about a storm of much stronger intensity. So we would need to be talking about this system strengthening into a hurricane. And right now, no, there's very little guidance that suggests that's possible. So given the forecast that we have, even a slight eastward shift, we still feel pretty comfortable about 4 feet above ground in Walton County.
Okay. And then one more. Is there any thought to extending those tropical storm watch further inland or just to the coast for now?
We are going to evaluate that after we get the advisory in from the Hurricane Center. We get their inland wind forecast about 10:30 Eastern. And so once we end up getting that, it's possible that we're going to see an inland extension of those watches. Part of that is a timing issue. Watches are about 48 hours from onset, so we're starting to get to that point. So that's something we'll look at here over the next couple of hours. This is our 9:30 a.m. briefing for Subtropical Storm Alberto. Could I get someone confirm for me that they're able to see the graphics and hear my voice?
Good to go, Kelly.
We can see. Okay, great. I've got about 1 minute to go. I'll be back with y'all momentarily, and we'll get started.